Hey, thank you so much for joining us here on the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse. Very, very excited to be here. We have this special guest. This brother is Luis Molina of PortPro. And before we begin, I just wanted to go ahead and get started by saying all that pubbing that I've been doing for the past month. ATL 5K is this Saturday, and I'm very, very excited. Like I said, this is my second one. The first go around I ran in September, and I was going for a 28-minute time and ended up getting 26 minutes. So I'm just trying to improve on this one, but I'm running on Saturday in the ATL 5K. There are still spots available if you wanted to join the transportation and logistics team. You just go to www.atl.com/5K and find that team. And the password would be logistics with a capital L, logistics. So also publishing a book, Fundamentals of Dispatching. So I'm very excited about that. And now that I've gone through those orders of business, I'm just truly grateful to have Luis on the stage. How you doing today, brother?
Hey, I'm excited. Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah, no doubt, man, no doubt. Look, for the folks who didn't join us last year, because this is your second time around on stage with me. So again, I appreciate you. I'm happy to have you back. For the folks who might not have been able to learn about you, then let's talk about it just a little bit. What's your background? How'd you get into trucking, and what are you up to these days?
All right, no problem. I got my license, my CDL. I was 19 years old, 2006. I got into container hauling through my father, and eventually ended up being an owner operator at the company he was hauling for. And then over the years, I saw some stuff that the way that we're treated in the port sometimes, and just the crazy stuff we see out here, and wanted to share some of that with people in the industry, right? So we made a Facebook group, started uploading updates, and the group grew from there. And then fast forward till now, like I know a few people, owner ops, drivers. We have built this little community called the Kontaineroz, which is sort of slang in Spanish for container hauler. Just like you would say, someone that hauls trailers, they call them traileros. The
Mm-hmm.
taquero, containeros, right? It comes from the word container. So yeah, I hope I didn't fast forward too quick there for you.
No, that was good, man. I'm still trying to, roll those R's. I'm gonna get it when we're talking about it offline. But no, that's beautiful. I didn't know that you guys started on Facebook. Is that what you just said? Is that how the group began, or
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I had some old stickers from when you ship stuff out. I got
Mm-hmm.
stickers from a friend that used to do graffiti, and I just drew stuff on them and put them on the speakers at the pedestals, and like, hey, join our Facebook group. And yeah, looking back, it was kind of funny, but here we are now. I'm on
Right, right, man.
Clubhouse with you, so
Yes,
great.
sir. Hey, brother, you guys have done something magnificent, actually, and I do want to touch on that a little bit more as we progress through the conversation. But currently, what are you doing?
Well, at the moment, I'm head of driver relations here at PortPro.
Okay, okay. For the folks who might not have heard of PortPro, what's a high level overview of what you guys do there?
All right, without trying to sound too salesy, here at PortPro, we're the leading operating system for drayage carriers. So I feel we cater to a very interesting. I hope I don't mispronounce this. Niche,
No, no, that's it.
and
You got it, brother.
for the service that they can run their operations with us. It's a web-based portal. Dispatchers can use it, billing clerks, company owners, etc. If you have internet, you have access, so you could literally be dispatching from the beach if you want. More flexibility. Uh,
Right, right.
when you get our system, you have access to, you can offer a driver app to your drivers. It's both, Android and iPhone users can download it.
Okay.
You could do location history tracking in the system, order entry, vessel ETAs, container visibility. Just make everything digital, paperless.
Right, right.
We're in
Well,
22. Things are changing.
right. I know it's a huge push to leave paper behind, for everything to be digital. I mean, with your experience as a port driver, somebody that haul containers, how was handling all that paper? Was it seamless or was it a headache at the end of the day?
Well, we like owner ops. We have our own style. Sometimes we got guys that have a little clipboard and they write it as they do it. You got guys that just throw the paperwork on the dashboard and figure it out on Friday. You got
Yeah.
day before payday and expect to get paid as soon as they turn it in. And then like there's just some things that I didn't know back then. Like I thought, now that from this side of the game, I see like all the other things that go into play for the operation to flow. So basically, if they don't get paid, then how can I get paid? So back then it was a lot of, I was part of the problem, you could say.
Yeah. So which one were you? You weren't the guy that was writing it down on the clipboard as you went, or like what you do? You threw it on the dash until Friday?
I would do it, load by load. It's just the OCD in me. I have to see how much I made that day. It's quota. And friend, he sort of would do it at the end of the week. And one time he got curious. He's like, I wonder if I'm missing anything. And long story short, he added up a bunch of missing pay for like 6 months worth. He was missing like $4,000, which that's $4,000, that,
That's a lot.
and it just slipped through the cracks because you weren't organized.
I hear you, man. No, that definitely is something to be said to the community. You got to be organized if you're operating a business because not everybody is going to be, providing the checks and balances for you. So if you are an owner operator, a business owner, or maybe you're even a company driver right now, maybe it is time to make sure that those systems are clean so that you're able to find out if you're missing any money. And I'm talking to myself too. There are definitely things that you just say you're going to get back to, and you kind of just forget. So you gotta develop a system so that things don't slip through the cracks like that. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And what's been all right? So you went from trucking, you went from being a driver, doing this day in day out for over 10 years to now. You're basically on the corporate side of things. What's been the biggest transition? Like, what's that transition been like on your day to day? And being out on the road, you gotta pay attention to DOT regulations, maybe even the safety guidelines on the port. But outside of that, you kind of made your own rules. What is it like working within this corporate structure now that you're there?
Well, it's definitely a big change. As a truck driver, I enjoyed my time alone and, with my thoughts and knowing that my job is point A to point B, and I did very well at it. I know I know what I'm doing when it comes to the ports and driving and all that good stuff. But here it was something new, um, from from learning how to share your screen, from doing a Google Meet, from proper introductions, and there's a different lingo here. Like I can't, you know what I mean? Like it's a different atmosphere. Like with trucker buddies, you can be like, more like casual. Is that the proper way?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And just learning, adjusting as I go, being a little more professional and whatnot. And yeah, man, just learning a whole lot about the other side too. Like what goes into these operations. It's a big picture, more than just uh, delivering and loading that truck. Like there's a whole lot of things that go into it. I think if you could put like if someone could put their hand on a container, everyone that has had anything to do with the with the lifespan of that shipment, I think you would fill up that whole container, with hands, like just to give you a visual of how engaging it is.
Gotcha. Now I definitely hear you. Things are a little bit different behind the desk. In front of a computer screen, and it's the simple things like what you just described, as far as how to share your screen and how to send out a Google Meet. What is a Google Meet? You know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
that is like it's another language. It's definitely a different skill set. So I'm happy that you're getting adjusted rather smoothly. But I guess to go back into more so of the backstory of Luis. All right, so you got your CDL back in 2006. You were operating. Did you ever? I know you were an owner operator. How long did it take you to go from being, a company driver to having your own truck, and now you're an owner operator?
It was, I would say, about 3 years or so.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah. Uh,
Like, how,
lease that truck and with the potential to someday own it, and losing one and then getting another and losing that and eventually getting mine, and you know
right? Yeah, I think that's a. I think that might be way faster than most people. Did you do the lease program through like the company that you were that you were working for?
yeah, at the time, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Would you, now that you've gone through it, is that something that you would kind of vouch for if people saw that as an option or they got that as an option? Do you think that's something that you would redo with the things that you know today?
I'm not sure. For me at the time, it was definitely a drastic change. Like, oh wow, I feel like you catapulted up the in the stage of the game, like owner up. Like, it's not just bragging rights. Like, you got to do the numbers and see if it's even worth it. Because I never really even read the contract. A lot of us didn't. So a lot of people gave up perfectly running trucks, you know, to hop on a new trucks to be compliant with the whole clean air stuff. And they just, at the moment, instant gratification, you get a new truck, everything's running smooth, and they made that transition easy. So I wouldn't go for something that's too easy to achieve like that. If I could go back, I would have saved up and do it on my own with no,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. No, I feel it. I feel it. So, 3 years you became an owner operator. At any point, did you feel as though you wanted to get your own MC, your own authority?
I didn't know much about that. I didn't have much. I thought the top of the food chain there was owner up, and then you made it. I didn't know that.
Mm.
It just seemed unattainable. To be honest, I didn't do my research. I was happy with my guaranteed check every Friday. I knew if I do a certain amount of loads, I was good, and I knew I was making more money than company drivers. So I already thought I was, at a certain level. So
No, I
yeah.
feel it. No, I feel it. I mean, you don't know what you don't know, which is exactly why I feel as though you created your platform, you were able to build your community, and that's definitely the reason why the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse became what it is today. Because I didn't know, I was doing the dispatching for a corporation, and I was, pretty solid with it, but I didn't know how to do it as an entrepreneur, how to do it for these individual owner operators or fleet owners that were out here that other people were dispatching for. So this platform became my education tool. People say they watch everything they can watch on YouTube. I kind of created that environment here on with the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, because I needed to learn all the what things do I need to consider before I actually get out here and start operating. So I definitely hear where you're coming from, and I'm pretty sure that you're doing your best to advise other folks on what they can be considering, wherever they are right now in the industry. Um, But let me ask this: do you feel as though the fact that you are a driver for so long, you're good at it, that it helps you in your role as head of driver relations with PortPro?
Oh, definitely, because humbly speaking, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to that, so I feel pretty confident. And also, like, it gives something, some kind of mutual, some common ground where I can identify with the drivers, like I'm still in transportation, even though I'm not doing it anymore. If that,
Right.
I don't want to be like these, like for example, politicians. They never been in a truck. They don't know what it's like, but yet they want to make all these rules and regulations of something they don't understand. So if you're gonna hear like input, at least let it be from someone that's been in your shoes. So
Right, right. No, I hear you for sure. And, you make a great point. Politicians have been making a lot of decisions that affect the folks that are in trucks, especially the folks that are where you're at, in California, especially with AB5. Fortunately, we're able to highlight as much as possible as the way that it's affecting the drivers that are still operating out there. And, just for folks who are listening, we are going to be having our second discussion with OIDA, regarding AB5 and what they were recent. They got a win recently. We're going to be discussing that in just a few days on Monday. So tune in then to hear more about it. But no, I definitely agree with you, sir, man. It's a lot of folks making decisions that are not going to affect them or anybody that they know. And, it's a little challenging sometimes. Well, look, before we go too far away, I know that you were owner operator. Like, so does that mean that did you ever have to set up the chassis rental, or was that something that was always kind of done for you and you pulled up and you went and got it?
yeah, towards the end, at the stage of my company, that would have been the plan. Eventually, get the concessions, get the chassis deposits in, get all that set up. UIA had the SCAT code and all that, but yeah, man. I was with the own authority. I could basically go to any company that had access to these terminals, and if I was registered in eMoto and I had my RFID tag, they would just add me under their existing list of owner ops, and I would ask
Okay.
codes with their SCAT code and just make sure I find the chassis in there. It all comes down to the SCAT code. The SCAT code will is kind of like your identification of what qualifications you have. So if you're not allowed to take chassis out from the terminal or that line at the gate, they're gonna cut you like short. Like, hey, go back. That's it. You're not authorized for this. So yeah, I would yeah, mostly work with companies that have their own chassis though towards the end because it got really bad out here. There was a lack of chassis. So
Right, right, right. Okay. Now I feel it. So let's think about that a little bit, or let me position this a little bit in a more specific way about your experience with the chassis. Right. Um, I know that you just described that would have been something with the concessions and stuff had you continued along your original path. But let me talk about it in this sense of like trying to give game to those folks who are still operating. When it comes to like having an imported container, right? You have to go. Let's just talk about it in the sense of hypothetical as owner operator who had to go rent their own chassis. They had to go to some chassis pool or something like that, and they had to sign their name, their company for that chassis, and then they got an imported container that needed to get dropped off somewhere. Were there any like have there been any experiences like that where you kind of were privy to how long it was taking for that chassis to be returned, so much so that all the charges that were still being accumulated for that chassis rental, like was that ever part of anything that you had to deal with?
No, just the carriers I would work with. Uh,
Okay.
yeah, they would just make sure, as they all should, include that in the accessorials. So basically, that's all agreed upon before they even start working with that customer. So it's not really their concern how long it takes if you have all that in writing. Although when it comes to weighing the priorities, of course you would want to have your chassis back so you can take out more imports, but you can't have them all.
Right. No, I feel it. And for some reason, I feel like with the the drivers out in LA, the port workers, I feel like it seems like y'all will be tight knit. Do you feel like y'all are tight knit? Like y'all are you know like a biker club or something? You got leather jackets. You do bonfires on.
Yeah, there's a lot of community vibes out here. There's their crews, but at the end of the day, like, whether some are like the day crew, the night crew, some are into this type of music or into this team. At the end of the day, what I do notice, everyone comes together when there's when the S word hits the fan.
The S word. What's that? Okay, well, you don't have to say anything you don't want to. All right, look, man, I'm just gonna keep on going. All right, accessorials. We did have somebody who wanted to know a little bit more about accessorials. All right, did you ever have to provide your own listing of accessorials to these organizations before you work with them?
No, because I never made it all the way up there to be a concessionaire. All
Uh,
that code, and I had the scat code, but it wasn't married to the concessions agreement. So I was like, it's like you're about to win this level of a game, and you're about to get there, and then boom, it stops, it ends. So that was my screw up. But yeah, I can answer what I know as far as accessorials. Like, it's just a way to, like, you never want to go like all in. You always want to have accessorials. Sometimes you just want to get the bag, and for example, accessorials matter because there's a scenario with the COVID rates.
mm-hmm.
There was a lot of good rates coming around, but for example, something that would normally be like all in maybe $650, for like 20-mile radius, at the time was going for like 3 grand. And people, for the sake of, I don't want to say taking advantage of the situation, but that's just the way it was at the time, right? Gonna get the bag, 3 grand, cool. You hear 3 grand and you go for it, all in. Yes, yeah, all in. Okay, yeah, cool. Well, what happens when they weren't receiving the empty for that $3,000 move, and you're paying all this per diem?
Mm.
End up owing triple of what you made. Does that make sense? Well, you went all in, so that you can't charge accessorials now.
Right, right.
So
Now
that's
here,
upside down. So accessorials matter. That's, as far as I know. That's you know how to cover your A word. Keeping it PG, keeping it PG.
okay, I got you. I got you. We did have one of our distinguished guests from, who's been up here a couple times as well, saying that they've made 23K in accessorials. Was it this year alone? Yeah, well, last year. So no, a huge thing. Accessorials, for the most part, people who, let's just say, are not operating in the industry and have to deal with that, because I wasn't for a long while. It was only once I started, getting deeper into the niches that I found out that some of the things that I was even asking for were part of the accessorials, which is, let's just say small things like detention pay, setting that dollar rate per hour and how many free hours that you're willing to give. You have the layovers, you have redeliveries, you have, if you have a lift gate, you got that box truck, it's something that you're charging that is beyond just distance and fuel. And fuel surcharges can also be wrapped into what an accessorial is. Additionally, what are some other accessorials for port work? You got the if you gotta if you gotta pin it in and all these different things. See, I'm still growing in my port operations, but you guys get the drift.
And the last I did port work is like a year ago, so I'm getting a little rusty on some of those things. But for my, I remember one, you could even do a congestion fee, holiday fee. Um, if you pay something on behalf of the customer and get reimbursed for it, you could add, let's say, a 20% markup on that reimbursement. Um, the chassis split, the
Right, right,
and if you have the bobtail there, if you have to move an empty to make room for another load that you're going to put in that dock, the chassis fees, the daily to keep it at your yard, because there's you got to balance it. The customer wants it a certain day, but the terminal wants it out. So if the customer wants it a month from now, but the terminal wants it out today's the last free day, you're gonna have to store it at your yard, and you need to charge for that. They want to have
right.
free, and the chassis and the storage all in one right there. And yeah, if I think of any more, I'll let you know.
No, I love it, man. I truly appreciate it. I feel like those were some pretty good things to mention in there. But if there were any specific questions, Victoria, please feel free to drop them in there. But yeah, well, I appreciate you sharing that. Were there any tips or tricks that you picked up while operating at the port as far as like getting your chassis faster, or maybe even, that whole concept of a street turn? For the people who don't know, can you talk about what a street turn is?
Yeah, the street turning, it eliminates the need for you to go take the empty out of the terminal that you're going to use for an export. So let's say I deliver to a city, um, and I get unloaded. Now I have an empty container. Let's say around the block of that warehouse, my load is there that I can reload that container. Unless it's street turned, I have to drive all the way back to the terminal and ask for that empty out, give that booking, then drive back. When if it was street turn, I simply just leave that warehouse and go around the corner, get it loaded, and I charge double.
Right.
So
Essentially, that's what it turns out to be since you don't have to do one of those legs of the trip, right?
yeah, but it's very important that you get the street turns approved because a lot could go wrong as well. Some of the steamship lines have a website where you like directly go on there, put the container number and the booking, um, I believe, and then it's approved right then and there. If the booking's good, then you can go reload it, take it back. All it does is assigns liabilities to your scat code. So now you're saying I take responsibility for any fees or damages from this point forward. You know, so yeah, if you don't get it approved, man, I had a bad scenario. This guy I met at the port. Turns out I would always see him in line. He's like, "Man, I'm here to take an empty out," and I'm like, "Man, I'm here to return one." So we put two and two together. So every time I had the same steamship line empty he needed, we would link up and do the swap. You know. Long story short, his dispatcher was being uh, slick with it and not doing the street turn until the day of. So sometimes they would have that loaded in their yard, and the it wasn't time for it to ship out, so they would just literally like keeping it at the yard while the company that originally took the load out was paying all the per diem. So
Mm.
it needs to be done right then and there, otherwise it's not worth it.
No, I definitely hear you there, brother. I definitely hear you there. And as far as like, other game that you got while you are operating, being on the port, how important are those safety precautions and those protocols? Like, um, discuss, what you've seen, anything that's been worth discussing here, how the whole safety aspect of a driver being on the port.
Well, I would say it's just be aware of your surroundings. Sometimes we get caught up in trying to make it out, but one small slip up and you will actually never make it out. So we got to be aware of our surroundings. Cause and effect. Like, don't cut through the piles. If they're pulling containers out of a certain pile, leave one container length in case one of them gets pulled. You don't get crushed by it. Stay in your truck when there's no need to be out of it. Like, you just get off to get the chassis, to lock your pins, stuff like that. Um, yeah, man, we've heard stories. We've seen photos that I wish I never saw. Some people just, the news travels quickly. Bad news travels fast, and I've seen bodies crushed by the trans machine.
Mm-hmm.
Seen people pinned in between containers. Seen, just, yeah, man, it's just not worth it. All because they were in a rush. You know,
Yeah.
uh, yeah, like, just take your time and get out alive. This one story I'll share real quickly. It was in the chassis pit. The father had just got his son in the game. Um, the son didn't have that much experience. He went to drop the chassis. Unfortunately, he failed to set the brakes on the tractor, and he only set the brakes on the chassis. The minute he unhooked the airlines and all that, the his own truck ran him over, and he had just started. So, and that was tragic right there. So all it takes is a moment of distraction, and it could be the end. So just, no load is worth more than your life, even if you have a lot of pressure going on. Like, nah, take your time.
Right, right, right. Now, I definitely hear you, man. So, people who are going to hear this, who are listening now, just take your time. Don't be in a rush, and safety is always going to be first. People, I'm not going to say people. I'm just going to say my family. My family used to look at me crazy because once I understood the purpose of, PPE, I don't do anything without it. Okay. I'm going to be the first one to get the proper equipment and, go about it the safe and secure way. I don't need to, cut corners if I know that, potentially doing that is going to lead to me getting injured. So, again, just take your time and follow those protocols because they're there for a reason. And what you got to prove? What you got to prove? Yeah, but that's it. And as far as, well, Victoria, let me get back with you as far as an actual website because I probably can find you something that has all of the good amount of those listings, or you can just holler at Melanie, who right there, because I know she got a whole list of all of the accessorials that she charged. But when it comes to it, you got the line haul, which is obviously not an accessorial. Then you got the fuel surcharge, which can be considered an accessorial. The chassis fee, so per day. And then you might have a storage fee, like he said earlier, detention, layovers, pre-pull, and you also want to have your payment terms in there. But those are the things I can just think of off the top of my head. And so continuing. All right. So look, with that community, right? What do you feel like? What do you feel like creating that group, Kontaineroz, do for the community as a whole? The port workers that were out in Cali, Long Beach, LA. What do you feel like that group has done for that community?
The group itself, like the Kontaineroz,
Yep.
or I would say, sort of like, get the word out. Like, get the word out, get the truckers heard, share information that, for example, I wish I would have known. Like, if I could go back, I would have really done my homework and took this business serious. You know, 19 years old. I'm 35 now. I would be like, whew, you know, I would be a millionaire right now if I would have, like, played my cards right. But I didn't, I was complacent. I didn't do my research. I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't look at the bigger picture, just payday to payday and thinking I was doing the most,
Mm-hmm.
foolish. But now I just kind of I see these new guys coming in, and there's no such thing as a stupid question, like just ask away, and we try to share the info if we have it. If we don't, we post it up and see who would answer it in the group and stuff like that, man. Just knowledge, motivation, a little bit of humor now and then, and that's it, man. Just work together because we
Right.
got to look out for ourselves. Because like I feel like this industry is not really like no one out there like trying to help it. So we got to do it ourselves. All of us.
I got you, brother. I definitely hear you there. Okay. All right. I mean, so do you feel like it's also created like a group of professionals that you know can provide this service of port work? Like, do you feel like you're closer to the people who can actually do drayage at this point? And if so, do you feel like that helps you with Port Pro?
Yeah, the community is mostly drayage related, and help me with PortPro. Yeah, because it keeps me in touch with the industry, and I can make realistic suggestions to better our system and be of better service to these companies.
Yeah, I love that. I definitely love that. Which is, the best part about dispatching for me and, hosting these discussions is because it definitely keeps things relevant. AB5, and, I know it's there with you guys, but what if it was to go to New Jersey next? I dispatch for quite a few companies that are based out of Jersey, and that would affect the way that they operate. And so no, I definitely hear you, brother. And for just a side note, for the dispatchers, right? For the dispatchers who are listening, let me ask you this because you would know this much, better than me. But this is my guess. All right, I feel like if there was a dispatcher that was fluent in Spanish and English, that they would just have all the clients that they can get. Do you feel like, there are enough dispatchers who speak Spanish and like, or do you feel like the market is already saturated with dispatchers who are addressing the Spanish speaking community who are drivers needing dispatchers?
Yeah, at least in this at the ports of LA and Long Beach, I think there's a big group of bilingual dispatchers. I don't think that's an issue here, and I think that that's really good because that opens up it opens up the opportunity to work with more people.
Right. No, I definitely hear you. I mean, from what I hear and what I've like kind of perceived, I know that there are hella Spanish speaking drivers, okay? And I never really get to see them or talk to them outside of, probably two or three that I dispatch for. But it's just like all the ones that, that don't speak English as well, or they prefer someone that speaks Spanish. I do feel like they're, maybe I'm just talking to the dispatchers since this is my world. Dispatchers, or soon to be dispatchers, if you speak Spanish fluently, this might be a place where you can get a whole lot of market share for people who aren't really being served. Not necessarily in, LA, Long Beach, because I can imagine, we got rappers who, like Kendrick Lamar and, what's that brother's name? D Smoke, yeah, who out here rapping in Spanish. So it's a different place right there. That's a real nice area, where they value, being bilingual. But these other places in America, there might be a real need. So if you're a dispatcher, just put that in your back pocket. Um,
Yeah.
now, question for you: do you feel like you have any tips and tricks or advice for dispatchers who want to specifically dispatch trucks and owner operators that operate in the ports? Like, is there anything that you got to experience that was good when you were working with those dispatchers from those corporations that you were kind of like working under, or anything like that?
I think they need to get PortPro and go to portpro.io. Schedule your demo.
I hear you. I hear you, brother. I hear
Hey, by the
you.
PortPro, we got a Spanish version on the app, eh? So
Okay.
it's good to understand your, and not try to like, reinvent stuff and make it cater to you. Like we got to understand the market and what we're working with and make it work for them. So if you know there's Spanish speakers, cater to them. If you know there's English speakers, cater to them. So it's just being of service, and making it easier for everyone out here to function in this supply chain that during this COVID season, we saw how important it is. It brought light to the importance of what we all do. So, and back to your question about tips for dispatchers in drayage.
Mm-hmm.
Um, huh. Just in general, I would say don't take it personal with the drivers when they don't want to do a certain load. Um, yeah, be on top of the last 3 days of those containers and just respect, I guess. Overall, keep it professional. You caught me off
Okay.
guard with that one. I'm trying to think because yeah, my issue was when dispatchers would take it personal and
Mm.
the whole. For example, um, I asked for work. What do you got next? No reply. No reply. Just on my message is ignored.
Yeah.
3 hours later, I'm home with my kids. Oh, I have a last 3 day. Can you cover it? If you don't,
Mm.
some might take it personal. And what happens the next day? I get put on the naughty list, right? I might not get work, you know. So if I have a way to prove that, that helps me. So
Yeah. No, I understand. I definitely hear you there. The whole notion of, just one, not taking anything personally, but at the end of the day, this is a business. So being professional at all times. I definitely hear you there. You can state that again because that's very important. That's one of the most foundational pieces to the way I operate. With my clients, we can do some great things, but we both got to be professional. It's not a matter of you got to be polished, or I got to be super polished, because at the end of the day, trucking, you can let your hair down, but the whole point is still being very respectful of one another
you
in
know,
such a way that you don't take things personal.
yeah.
So yeah,
If we put ourselves in the other person's shoes, no matter what like job they do or title, I think if we did that for a day, like there would be a lot more respect going back and forth.
yeah, agreed. So look, I mean, I think that pretty much wraps up the questions that I had. If you wanted to share anything, just let me know. If there were any questions in the audience, people wanted to come up, please feel free to raise your hand. I'll definitely bring you up to the stage, and you'll be able to discuss whatever it is directly with this brother. So if you have a question, I'm turning hands off, and then I'm gonna turn them back on. Um, so yeah, if you had a question, please raise your hand, and I'm happy to bring you up to the stage. But I'm going to keep that open for about 30 seconds. So, but yeah, in the meantime, Luis, I just wanted to say I truly appreciate you for your time this evening, brother. Being willing to discuss not only your background, but that transition to PortPro. It is very, very difficult to go from, being in one environment for the majority, almost the entirety of your adult life, to having to learn a new way of operating, a new way of thinking. So I just want to let you know I'm very proud of you, brother, and I'm here to support you in whatever way I can. But yeah, did you have anything that you wanted to say before we closed out? Okay, let me see. I just invited somebody to the stage. Let's see if this brother. Hey, what's up, brother Scott? How you doing today, sir?
Hey guys, thanks for bringing me on stage. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Extremely blessed, sir. Thank you.
Awesome, man. God
Same.
bless. Awesome, Luis. Thanks for the presentation. I really appreciate that. I'm not in drayage, but I'm on the East Coast. I was wondering, about this PortPro. Is this really gonna is the only solution for drayage carriers, or do you think other carriers like doing drive-in or even like local van work, is that something you think would does that have the same capacity for us?
Yeah, we do offer a over the road feature as well. So if you need to use it that way, that can be done as well. And any you could also do a demo and then ask any questions there with Daniel. He's really great at presenting it and all the different scenarios and what combinations and how you could use it best for your type of operation. So in short, the answer is yes, we could do other things. At the moment, that's just like the biggest part of our market is drayage, but it doesn't mean that we're gonna single out any other type of operation.
I gotcha. And I came in a little bit late. Maybe you said this. Maybe I have to ask the sales team. But is there like a standard subscription rate? Is it based upon like units, or like how does that work out? Maybe do you know that?
Subscription and yeah, it's a subscription based service. Uh, you have access to the web based portal, and I don't know if you missed all the
Yeah, I came in really late. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm asking some stuff you
Oh,
probably
one
didn't know.
second. We do have somebody from PortPro who is, I'm sure, going to be able to speak on this. What's up, Tony? How you feeling?
Hey
Oh,
guys.
hey.
Hey, how you doing today,
I'm
Tony?
good. It's so funny. I haven't like spent time on Clubhouse since like everything was locked down and I was on this app like every day.
Right,
But just
right.
to answer Joel's question, yeah, so like the system was really built for drayage, but we have a lot of companies that use it for over the road. Um, but it's subscription based on the number of drivers that you have, and regardless like if it's PortPro or not, like the biggest piece of advice that I have, like my family's been in trucking for like 70 years, is get an operating system. You know what I mean? It's so crazy. Like 70% of the trucking companies that come to us are still running on paper and WhatsApping their drivers and Excel sheets. And it's like, it's 2022 and you need to be able to like better manage your business and understand your data so that you can like make smarter business decisions. In the port it's a little bit more complex because you're talking about per diem and demurrage charges and all that stuff, but in general it's just really good to have that visibility over your company and over your drivers so that you can take the company to the next level. So
No, I definitely hear you there. We did have a question of Port Pro and Load Match. What's the difference? Because like I said, I dispatch, but this is a little bit different for me right now as far as using Load Match, which I think is more so a load board for drayage opportunities. But if I'm mistaken, please give me more, insights as you know it from where you are in the industry.
That's
My
all you.
bad. Tony, my bad. Tony or Luis, one of you two, me, because you guys would know it better than me. Okay, okay.
Maybe Tony hopped off, but yeah, PortPro is not a brokerage. It's an operating system, so it's yeah, big difference there.
Right. Yeah, that's what I figured. Whereas with what I think load match is, you can be a dispatcher, you can be an owner operator or fleet owner, and you sign up for that service, and it's similar to a DAT where you're getting those opportunities just in a load board fashion. But yeah, so appreciate you for your question, and we did have another brother. Is it Yahtzee, the minister? Yeah, anytime, brother. Yazi. Okay.
trucks and whatnot. I wasn't going to put an express.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't. And is personnel. Like I said, 1,500 miles.
Right. Okay, okay. Luis, did you want to answer that from your perspective of, being, buying leasing a vehicle from the company you are working for?
Yeah, and I'll answer that as Luis Molina. That one is this is my opinion. I think a lot of these like the mega carriers, they man, it's sad to say, but I think most profit more from leasing their trucks to the drivers than the actual freight they move. So it's very predatory. You should definitely look into like the percentages that you're missing out on and run the numbers if it's even worth it in the long run. Because you have scenarios where there's guys that, for the sake of saying they're owner operator, they're making way less than company drivers that are making a good income, a good salary. So it's just like, you know, don't let it become just like a bragging rights type of thing where the numbers got to make sense, the lease has to make sense, the buyout has to make sense. Like mine, it was like after 5 years of paying 1,200 a month, you get to buy the truck for $40,000. But within that time frame, it was not going to be worth that much. So, and those trucks you hop into, sometimes they've been in the hands of 3, 4 drivers that thought they were going to own it someday. So that's another way to make money too. These trucks are paid off maybe 3 to 4 times by the time anyone else gets to own it. And when they get to own it, they're all run down with like a bunch of miles. So I don't know. I would just try to like take it easy. I mean, play it safe as far as like take your time. You don't got to rush into it. Maybe learn the ropes as a driver in the game and learn. That's how I did it as far as driving goes. But I know your question was more about the lease, so yeah, just learn, and when you're ready to take that step, then get financed on your own.
Hey,
Because
Luis, yeah, I agree with you, man. I think just I wanted to jump in right there too because I run a logistics company. We do national OTR work and we also do local regional stuff in the southeast out of Atlanta, kind of helped out of there. And I come from the car sales world. I was working for BMW before I started the company, and we started in passenger freight as well too, passenger transportation. But um, I tell everyone you gotta look at the leasing system really from the car sales thing. If you understand that, most people, who lease because they have excess cash, right, and they just really want the latest models, and they want to kind of transition in and out of vehicles, but they're actually circumventing ownership, right? They're whether it's safer technology or the newest models, you know what I'm saying. But at a company like BMW, our job at the end of that 3-year lease is to get you into the next model. If we can sell you that lease vehicle after 3 years, you already put maybe 30, 40,000 miles on it. We're not going to get better than what we're going to sell it back to you for in the back end, right? So we're definitely ensuring MSRP plus of whatever premiums we got on the first end of the lease. So on our side, when we were recruiting, just company operators, not owner operators externally. A lot of guys were like, we lease want to lease on. We were in this program before, and we really had to walk people away from that because like if you don't have anything, I always say we do that at our company, but we always say you have to come with a down payment because if you're not going to have any, going to walk in zero down, you're going to get screwed. And I'm sure that's exactly what Lewis is talking about. We see all the deals from everyone
yeah,
from Schneider to Western to I'm like, why would you pay? You're paying almost $300,000 for a truck that you could get used for maybe 90K, 80K, 70, 60K. Like
yeah,
it really doesn't make sense. Just save up 10 grand and maybe get a partner to give the other 5, 10.
yeah. In a way, this is what leads to these government interventions, you know, like, oh, we're gonna come and save the day. Oh, here's AB5. You know what I mean? So like,
Hmm.
yeah,
brothers. I
Mm,
appreciate it's just it's heck know that honestly I work with this kind
right,
I just
right.
try to what they're
yeah,
dealing with.
yeah. Like, I know sometimes you guys are invested in it, and it feels. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I'll go for it, Luis.
No, like
Yeah, go ahead.
it feels like a step backwards. But if you could get out while you're ahead, that loss is nothing compared to what's coming down the road in a bad deal. So, like, you know, put your you know, we get I'm out of words, but you know, we get attached to these things. You know, we see we want to thrive, right? We think of our goals, the future, our kids, and that's what we're doing it for, whatever your goal may be. And then we tie that to this material. But if the deal's not good, you know, it's best to just let it go, you know, and you know, make a better choice, respectfully.
Hey,
Well,
I agree
yeah,
too, Luis.
I
And
appreciate
I
I
agree
think,
with that, Luis. I appreciate you for saying that. And just from my position, I haven't, uh, been a owner operator or somebody that has been a driver for a company driver, basically. But everybody that I interview, everybody that I know that is doing it at a higher level, and even hearing it from Luis earlier, it's the notion of educating yourself. So that means asking questions to people who have already done it, possibly even getting a mentor. There are a lot of folks that I've learned a lot of things from about dispatching from in the couple of years that I've been using Clubhouse. But one of the key people I've learned things about being, what the owner operator experience is, the fleet owner experience is a brother by the name of Desi, Desi Wade. He does a lot of rooms on Mondays and Fridays. I would definitely tell you to check him out because these questions that you're asking, I'm pretty sure that he'll give you the game for free. Um, so much so that when I created the Transportation and Logistics Clubhouse, I didn't even know who he was, but just randomly throughout the day, he was just starting rooms just to educate people on certain aspects of the game. So, I would just say make sure that you are asking, like what you're doing right now is exactly what I would encourage you to do more of, which is just
Yep.
talking to people so that you can, get other perspectives from people who might be just a little bit further along the road. And, yeah, so I applaud you for even being willing to ask the question tonight, brother.
Yep. 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 Predatory companies like that want the people to stay in that bubble. You know, ask questions, ask other colleagues, how much is this? How much are you doing here? How did you do it? And just, you know, take notes along the way, man. I wish you the best.
All right, bet, bet, bet. Well, again, Luis, I appreciate you so much for joining us. Hey, Joel, thanks so much for your contribution. Yazi and Tony, thank you all for coming up to the stage. I truly appreciate you guys participating. But, Luis, if there was anything that you wanted to say to close out the room, now's definitely the time, brother.
Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone on here for your time and tuning in. Thank you guys.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Luis, man, I said this the other day, but I love the direction that you're heading. Let me know if I can be a resource to you. I love that new LinkedIn headshot. It's good, man. I'm happy that this is the direction that you're heading, And for everybody that's listening in, thank you so much for the support. Truly appreciate it. And I would say tune in on Monday morning, 7:30 a.m. Eastern Standard, as we partner with Freightways Sonar Team to let you know where you should position your trucks to take advantage of the market. We also are going to be interviewing OIDA on Monday evening to discuss the updates to AB5. It seems like they got a voice now. You know, their voice is going to officially be heard when it comes to considering things and the way that enforcement will play out. So we're going to be highlighting those folks. And, if you need anything from me, just holler at me. But I truly appreciate the support. God bless you all.
Peace.